We'll be discussing why people today do not see the signs of the times. On The Truth Must Be Told. So, stand by.
He's just ignorant. He doesn't know any better than to tell the truth.
It's the truth. I just want to report the truth. It'd be a nice change of pace, okay?
When in doubt, tell the truth.
And when I tried to tell the truth, and they kicked me off the air.
You can't handle the truth.
And now, speaking the truth, even though it hurts. Here's the host of The Truth Must Be Told, Sal Passos.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Please hit that like button to help spread the truth to more people. You know, with all the trouble in the Middle East, all the difficulties that are going on around the world right now, things here in our own country, we've got teenagers assaulting people. We have another teenager that stabbed someone to death because whatever, because why not? You know, we're seeing increased frequencies of earthquakes. It just a few days ago, we just had, excuse me, a 2.7 or 3.0 in New York City area, New Jersey, New York City. There's a lot of UFOs being seen. Supernatural things being seen. So it's only fitting that we examine the scriptures and see what they say regarding the end times and why do so many people refuse to recognize that we are in the end times. I want to begin just briefly talking about Ezekiel 38. Now, Ezekiel 38 is interesting, and I was looking for the pictures that I had, and I couldn't find them, so I please forgive me for that. And I did looked, but I couldn't find it. But Ezekiel 38 in the Bible speaks of the Gog and Magog war, when Gog, the prince of Magog, will attack Israel along with the armies of Persia, Cush, and Put. Now, the thing is, those countries are here today. You've got Iran, which is Persia. Cush, I believe, is Turkey. Magog, Russia. And we're seeing all these things happening. Now, this is a big thing having to do with the end times, and it's ramping up. So there are so many things going on in the world today, and Jesus warned us about the signs of the end and what to look for. I personally believe that we're in those last days. You know, people of the world are expecting something big to happen. There's a lot of talk out there. Something big's going to go on. And I have to go back to something that Jesus said. You know, now, he told us in Matthew 24, when he was privately taken aside by his disciples and said, some of his disciples said, tell us, when will these things be? Excuse me. And what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Jesus went on to explain the signs that would usher his return. And they were also mentioned in Luke 21. To look for false Christ, wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, Christian persecution, close betrayals, Christian martyrdom, false prophets, lawlessness, and Israel will be regathered. Now, I find it interesting that he starts with, take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See to it that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, earthquakes in various places. All these things are the beginning of sorrows. He said the beginning of them. Now, the word for sorrows in the Greek is odin. It relates to childbirth. So Jesus is saying that once we see these things begin to happen, it is the beginning of the birth pains. So let's talk about religious deception. Let's start there. And I'm going to warn you ahead of time, this is going to be a two-parter because I'm not going to get through all of this today, not without going a couple hours. So I really want you to get this material, and I want you to hear what the Bible says about these things and what's happening in the world. Now, I've spoken about religious deception many, many times, false teachers. We just went through a series of false teachers. And they're still out there, and they're still doing their thing. I should do another show on Jesse Duplantis because he just came up with a couple of real Lulus this past week. But false teachers, false Christs, the rise of the occult, rise of evil, increased UFO sightings, increased sightings of things like Bigfoot, dogmen, other strange cryptids out in the woods and other places. And I mean, this is just, it's getting more and more and more prevalent. Now, in 2 Timothy chapter 4, it talks about, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers having itchy ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned unto fables. There's another scripture that says they're going to turn to doctrines of demons. You know, these are things that are happening today. No question that the church is being deceived, that there's religious deception being done, and they want to bring this into, again, a one world religion, which is what the Catholic Church wants. A lot of the mainstream churches want this, but the Church of Christ, we can't be fooled by this, okay? Not the Church of Christ, church denomination, the body of Christ, the church, that's Christ's body, is even being led astray. They're being deceived. There's a lot of this stuff going on out there, and we really need to stay firm in the scriptures and watch out with what's happening out there. Now, I want to get into the international revolution and war. Now, there's never been a time, and I'm going to get back more about the supernatural stuff a little later, but let's talk about war for a minute. There's never been a time on earth we have seen more wars. Now, the First World War was the start of the end. That's what I believe, and I'll get into that in a minute. Nation will rise against nation, Jesus said. That's never happened during up to the time of World War I. I believe that when World War I started, that's when the time clock began to go. It began the countdown, as it were. Now, I'm not a date setter here, okay? But Jesus told us that, but as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. So if you look back at the days of Noah, God said at that time that men's lives will be 120 years. And we know from the time that was said, 120 years took place and then the flood. So adding 120 years to 1914, we get around 2034. That's interesting, isn't it? But look what's going on during the days of Noah. This is what makes it even more interesting. Jesus told us that people were marrying and giving in marriage, and they didn't know the end until Noah entered the ark. Now, I want to take a bit more time here to explain about the days of Noah. Now, in Genesis 6, it describes the reason for the flood. Now, many people don't seem to realize the significance of what happened then. So let me put this up on the screen and we can look at it together, shall we? Let me grab my screen here. Here we go. Now it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Now there were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent and thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both men and beasts and creeping thing. Keep these in mind, and birds of the air. Remember that. That's very important. Okay? And for I am sorry that I have made them, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So now you've got, he's going to destroy man. He's going to destroy beasts, creeping things, and birds of the air. They're all going to be wiped out. Now, the next verse says this, verse 9. If I can get my computer to acknowledge it here. Here we go. This is the genealogy of Noah. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole genealogy. Noah was just a man. But he was perfect in his generations. Now, the word perfect is tamim. It means complete, whole, perfect, blameless, without blemish. Okay? It's meaning without blemish is purely sincere. Okay? His bloodline was pure, without spot. And why did God point this out? Why was this such a big deal to the Lord? Why did he, through the Holy Spirit, tell us, hey, look, Noah was perfect in all his generations, and and so what's going on there? Why would he say that? Well, I'm going to give you a reason for that. All right. Now let's go back and look at the verse. Verse 6 says the sons of God. Now the sons of God in the Hebrew is B'nai Ha-Elohim. It is they are fallen angels. Now there's teaching out there that these were the sons of Seth, who married the daughters of Cain, and that's why God got upset, because it was a generation of good that married a generation of bad, and men began to sin. But this, in each of its uses in the Bible, B'nai Elohim, it refers to angels. So we got to boil this down to simplicity. Angels had sex with human women and produced human hybrids. Daughters of men, that's word in there, is Bath Adam, not the daughters of Cain. Okay, so it's daughters of men, of Adam, daughters of Adam. The word giants that's used in there, the Nephilim, well, that's from the Hebrew word nephel, the root word meaning cast down. Now, the translators mistranslated this. Excuse me, while they were giants, yes, the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Hebrew, which was the earliest translation of the Old Testament into Greek, uses the word, I believe it's pronounced gigantes, and that's probably from the view of the Greek. Okay, the word means earth dwellers, cast down earth dwellers. That's what the word means. Even though these men, mighty men, were giants, they weren't necessarily giants in how we think of them. Okay, so the proper word is Nephilim in the Jewish, meaning the fallen ones or earthborn ones. Now, the Jews knew about them. Now, it is some speculate that the bones of the Nephilim were visible to the Jews of Jesus' day. Now, and that's according to Josephus and other historians. And in fact, I think the place of the skull where they crucified Christ Golgotha, it's from Goliath of Goth. I think that's where they got that from. But the early church fathers had accepted this, but in later years, the teachings that angels had mated with human women wasn't a teaching that some could bear. I believe it was Augustine that began to change the theory of the sons of God to mean the sons of Seth, who were marrying the daughters of Cain, and this is furthest from the truth. Furthest from the truth. The fallen angels took these women in exchange for, excuse me, let me start that over. The fallen angels took these women, and in exchange for taking them, the fallen angels gave information to humans. Now, this is made known to us from the book of Enoch. Now, before you go all getting, crazy on me here, the book of Enoch was also, book of Enoch, also known as Enoch 1, was once cherished by the Jews and Christians alike. This book later fell into disfavor with powerful theologians, and probably Augustine was one of them, precisely because of its controversial statements on the nature and deeds of these fallen angels. Now, Jews would have known about this book, and even Jude quotes it in Jude 1:14 says, Enoch, the seventh of our ancestors after Adam, spoke of these people in advance, saying, behold, the Lord is coming with millions of his angels. Now, let's be clear. I don't think that the book of Enoch is an inspired book. Jude just said that Enoch said such and such, okay? So that's where we're at there. Now, if we look at Enoch, okay, Enoch, let's read this together a little bit, okay? So it says, and it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Sanjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay for the penalty of a great sin. They all answered him and said, let us swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Okay, so they swore themselves together, and they came to Mount Hermon, and Mount Hermon to this day is a very highly charged spiritual place. A lot of stuff going on there. And it gives the names of his leaders. I can't pronounce them all. So Samlaz, their leader, Arakelba, Ramil, etc. So you can pause and read these for yourselves if you want. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go into them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with the plants. And they became pregnant and bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish. Does that look familiar? That's what I was talking about before. Birds and bees and reptiles and fish. And to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. And it goes here. So Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, made known to them the metals of the earth, the art of working them, bracelets, ornaments, the use of antimony, and beautifying the eyelids, and all of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godliness and they committed fornication, and they were led astray and became corrupt in all their ways. Samjaza taught enchantments and root cutting. Amaros, the resolving of enchantments. This guy here taught astrology. Kokorabel, the constellations. There's another one taught the knowledge of the clouds. Yaraquel, the signs of the earth. Shamziel, the signs of the sun, and Sariel, Sariel, the course of the moon. And men perished, they cried, and as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. So, Sal, why is this important? Well, I'll tell you. Jesus said, just as in the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Also, this would explain many of the findings around the world, such as pyramids and other structures that historians cannot understand and how they were built. In fact, I just saw a video the other day where they were talking about a city that was found, I think, just off the coast of Cuba, under the water, with pyramids and all kinds of things there. And they're constantly finding buried cities under the water. We look at the architecture and some of the things that are around the pyramids and whatnot. Also, when you go to some of these places, these major buildings around the world, the stones are cut so precisely, and we have no idea how this was done. I believe it was part of the pre-flood architecture. It was Nephilim architecture and fallen angel technology. More on that in a later show. Now, not only do we see these famines and earthquakes and plagues and strange events in the sky, we are starting to see the return of the Nephilim. Now, we must understand Genesis 3:15. All right, let me put that up on the screen for you here. Genesis 3:15. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Okay? This is the first prophetic prophecy of the coming Messiah. It's called a proto-evangelist. The word seed here means offspring. Eve, who was spoken here, the mother of humanity, is told that her offspring would be continually harassed by Satan and his followers. Now, I do believe, though, that the seed of Satan is the Antichrist. But since Genesis 3:15, a seed war has been taking place. And we must understand this seed war. Okay? Jude 6 tells us, and the angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. Okay, so what's interesting about this, Sal? Well, the interesting thing about this is that the word abode here, used for habitation in the King James, is okaterion. That's in the Greek, which means a dwelling place. Okay? It's a dwelling place of the body as a dwelling place for the spirit. It's using the term, so our body is a dwelling place for the spirit, but it's just not our final version of ourselves. We're going to be changed. In fact, Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians 5:2, and this is then next time this, and the only other time this word is used, for in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with our habitation, which is from heaven. Okay, so we as Christians groan to be clothed in our spiritual bodies. Now, the fallen angels, what Jude said, is that they left that habitation, their spiritual bodies, to mate with the women of earth. So understand this. If we don't understand the seed war, we will not understand Genesis 6 and the Nephilim. Okay? Again, Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be at the coming of the Son of Man. There was a second incursion of the Nephilim after the flood. Okay? Remember, Genesis 6:4 says there were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterwards when the sons of God, the B'nai Elohim, came into the daughters of men and they bore children to them. Why would Satan do this? Because he wanted to mess up the genetic profile. He wanted to mess up the DNA. He knew that the Messiah would have to come through human, okay, the seed of the woman. And he wanted to disrupt that by interrupting human beings. So he had these angels fell, took on this deed, about 200 of them, and they went and spread throughout the whole earth. And I think if you look at the end of Genesis 5, it says, and men began to call upon the name of the Lord. It actually should read, and men began to profane the name of the Lord. Okay, that's another study for another day. Now today, people are fooling around with genetics, trying to make man into a better, stronger version of himself, have longer life. Scientists are trying to incorporate computer chips within the human brain. They want hybrids, human machines. AI is becoming more widely used. AI is setting the stage for the Antichrist and his ability to control the masses. All right? Technology has exploded. Until just recently, I mean, look at it this way, okay? In the days of Moses, you traveled by horse. You got your messages by horse, right? By foot or by horse, the fastest way. George Washington's day, same thing. Message by horse, right? Got messages by horse. You travel by horse. Look at where we're at today. A message can go anywhere in the world in a nanosecond. This video is coming to you through technology that I believe what we're seeing is all this technology that has exploded onto the scene over the last, 100 years, 150 years, is fallen angel technology. These geniuses out there in Silicon Valley openly admit that they get their ideas from avatars or their spirit guides. Enough said about that. But AI is setting the stage for the Antichrist, okay, and his ability to control the masses. Now, there are many videos out there for you to watch on this. Okay, I left a link in the description for an excellent study by Chuck Missler on transhumanism. I would highly recommend you check that out. Okay. Now, let's start talking about briefly here Luke 21, 25 through 29. Jesus said this, and there will be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars and on the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming upon the earth, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. We are increasingly seeing more and more signs in the skies. All right, the signs in the sun, the moon, the stars. All right, we have 2 suns that have been multiple. Look this up. 2 suns, all over the place. People are videoing these things. There are other signs. Look at these things. There are reports of flying black figures around the world. There's also some white figures, too, that are floating around out there. I didn't get videos of those, but they're out there. After the April 8th solar eclipse, and they are being seen at an increasing rate all over the world. We're seeing these signs, people are seeing these things spinning around. There have been signs of them during the California fires. You're going to see a video here in a second, or a clip here in a second from in Israel when they were under attack. They saw these things flying around. Some people say they're birds, other people say they're planes. A lot of people don't know what they are. People don't know what these things are, but they started showing up during that April 8th solar eclipse that was supposed to change everything. And ironically, here's the ones where they're flying through the buildings. You see them flying. There they go, flying around these buildings. To me, they look like demonic forces, and it could be demons just manifesting themselves. I don't know, but also at the same time, CERN fired up the Hadron Collider, the Large Hadron Collider, to smash atoms together on April 8th, the same day of this eclipse. And now the team started this in hopes to reveal more mysteries of the universe, especially dark matter. Has CERN opened up a portal between the spiritual world and ours? I mean, there are portals reported all over the world. In fact, the Tower of Babel was supposed to be a tower reaching to the heavens, but in essence, it was a portal to try to reach in and get these spiritual beings to come in, and they can go into there. So there was that portal, and there's reports of them all over the place. We have portals. We have. They think that Skinwalker Ranch is a portal. It's a very good possibility. I say, Sal, you're talking science fiction here. But imagine this, though. They're talking about black matter at CERN. They want to find this black matter. It's antimatter. It's what Star Trek talked about for a long time. Antimatter. And when matter and antimatter meet, they cancel each other out, according to the scientists. But if that portal is open and they discovering this black matter, could it be that they've opened a portal? Could it be that through them trying to find this black matter, that they've opened a portal and allowed other things and entities to come in? Now, we know as Bible-believing Christians that there is most assuredly a spiritual realm that exists outside of our understanding. There's an invisible world that's not seen by us, but nonetheless, it exists. All right? Colossians 1:16 says this, "For by him all things were created, that are in heaven and on the earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. All things were created by him and for him." Ephesians 6 says, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Ephesians chapter 2 says this, "Wherein in times past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience." What does it mean when it says Satan is the prince of the power of the air? He rules the air. Space is his domain. The atmosphere and space are ruled by him. Okay, he rules in there. That's his area. Remember, if you read through Satan's fall in the Old Testament, he was cast down to earth. Jesus himself said, "I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning." Okay, so he was cast down to the earth. His domain is not in hell. He doesn't rule over hell. That's fairy tale. That's not true. It's not biblical. He's not sitting there with a pitchfork poking everybody. His domain is space and the atmosphere. It's ruled by him. Now, he and his servants, the Bible tells us, can transform themselves into angels of light. The fallen angel can appear. They can appear to us as what they want to appear to us. They can take the form of false teachers. They can take the form of your Aunt Edna, who died a while ago. Then they can take the form of UFOs and aliens. Now listen, there's a huge alien deception coming our way. Look up Project Bluebeam, where holograms can be projected in the skies. Okay, the world is being conditioned to accept UFOs and aliens. Movies, videos, and the news are all getting us ready for what is to come. Hollywood is not hiding things anymore. They are openly showing us what is being planned. You know, where Satan used to have to sneak around, now people are just opening their doors to him. And remember, Jesus said, these are the birth pains. We are seeing many of them being set up for the Antichrist. All these things, the one world government, one world monetary system, the one world religion, okay, where they want to put implants in us. They want to do all these things. God told us in His Word that as men began to become more depraved, that He would block their minds. So that they would blind them, so that they wouldn't see the lie. I think what we're seeing now is it's setting the stage. It's setting the stage for the Antichrist. And people are not listening. They don't see it. Even Christians refuse to see it. Why? Why do Christians refuse to see it? Because they've been fooled. Well, we'll continue this again on part 2. And I beg you, come to Jesus while there's still time. Accept the work that He did on the cross. If you need to know how, you got any questions, comments, concerns, you could reach me at thetruthmustbetold93@gmail.com. thetruthmustbetold93@gmail.com. In the meantime, I ask you to like and subscribe to this channel. And we'll see you next time on The Truth Must Be Told. God bless.